colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and wishing you all a very happy World Cities Day. My name is Sania Ansari. I'm the chairperson of Ansari Group Limited, incorporated in Canada, UAE, and Pakistan. It's a holding company and a global boutique consulting firm, which provides our clients with elite strategy for business expansion, globalization, business consulting, startups, venture capital services, and also we collaborate with the royal families of the UAE. I'm also the chairperson for Ansari Foundation, ambassador at large for International Human Rights Commission, Wonder Women Association of Pakistan, among many other notable organizations. Today, I'm honored and delighted to announce the MOU between Ansari Group Limited and the UN Habitat to launch the SDG cities in 1,000 cities by 2030 to improve 1 billion lives. And I'm pleased to be moderating today's closing session. Today is the World Cities Day. World Cities Day was established as an outcome of the 2010 Shanghai Expo. This is where we reaffirm our commitment to making the world cities more sustainable and prosperous, offering opportunities and better quality of life for all. We have heard how cities now host more than half of the world's population. To mitigate climate change, cities require a rapid shift to clean energy and must be planned with greater compactness and greater allocation of green public spaces. Cities need urgently to become more resilient to climate risks through investment in infrastructure, including nature-based solutions. They need to pay attention to slums, which currently house 1 billion people experiencing acute deprivation, inequality, and health risks, and must avoid new slums from forming. Furthermore, with rapid urban population growth bringing 2.3 billion more people to cities in the next 3 decades, small and secondary cities must be able to attract a far greater share of urban growth. Over the last 3 days, we have also launched the pilot stage of the SDG Cities Global Initiative. This is a global collaborative action of cities, city networks, academics, businesses, investors, global compactors, civil society, with one goal: to support cities to become economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable by 2030, improving quality of life for all. We have been introduced to the urban monitoring framework, an effective, efficient approach to monitor the performance of cities in delivering on SDGs. We have discussed voluntary local reviews and how this provides a systematic way for cities to report on the SDG performance. We have heard how cities stand or fall on the strength of the whole city, and thus the need to engage all of the city in the preparation of the city development strategies for 2030. Moreover, we have emphasized the importance of empowered and strengthening local institutions with accountable inclusion, effective governance, planning, revenue, and service delivery as needed to drive the local achievements of SDGs. Lastly, we have discussed in-depth processes, challenges, and solutions for investing in the tangible impact. SDG cities provide cities with tools along with technical support and global collaboration in all these areas. It recognizes the exceptional efforts of cities through the SDG cities certification. As we bring this first edition of the SDG Cities Global Conference to a close, we will be asking the key SDG cities partners what is their vision for going to scale and delivering on the target of impacting 1,000 cities and 1 billion lives before 2030. This morning, we heard from the global CEO of Alliance on how digital tools can help us reach the scale. We will now be hearing from the We will be now hearing from the Urban Economy Forum Global Sustainability Index Institute, Blend Lab, and Thriving Cities Group. With the time limited, I will not be reading each one's bio, and the bio will be provided in the chat for you to read. And now I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Raza Porvezeri. I hope I pronounced your name right. Chair of the Urban Economy Forum, and the floor is yours, Raza.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you can. You can.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, UN Habitat and the City of Shanghai to provide this great opportunity. Thank you, DIFET, for your great support and initiate. I will try to explain a little bit about the history of the or the background of the Urban Economy Forum, and then I will introduce World Urban Pavilion in the Region Park. I read and kind of highlight from Secretary General Antonio Guterres. I believe that's extremely important. He said emission gaps is the result of a leadership gap. And we, in Urban Economy Forum, try to focus to bridging this gap. That is extremely important to create kind of interpretation and try to create kind of interaction between all the stakeholders related to realizing SDG. Urban Economy Forum is an international organization that engage with the United Nations, specifically with Habitat, to build capacity and global network to realize the SDG by leading global dialogue on sustainable urban resources. In this process, we established World Urban Pavilion as an intergovernmental collaboration, a global hub to exchange urban knowledge and innovation. We focus on new urban agenda and SDG 11, align city mandates and priorities with new urban agenda and establish program for SDG 11. In parallel, we focus about creating global network, an interactive and practical global network with countries and cities to identify, test, and exchange best practices. During 2 decades, I work in best practice area, try to collaborate with best practice and local leadership program of UN Habitat, and also working in collaboration with Global Urban Monitoring previous department of UN Habitat, and recently with Knowledge and Innovation Department. That is kind of a timeline about history of Urban Economy Forum. After General Assembly 2015, that SDG goals approved, we had different workshop and different brainstorm session about urban resources and about sustainable urban resources. As we know, there is a serious gap for municipality when they want to approach the sustainable development. They have a serious gap about the budget, about the resources. And talking and thinking about urban resources and municipal finance always is a gap, is a serious challenge. Based on my experience, as soon as we approach to the cities and countries and we ask them contribute about sustainability or any initiatives, they have some, they want to participate, but they have a serious gap regarding the finance and resources. In parallel, we support and collaborate World Cities Report. 2016, we host both steering committee here in Toronto and New York. And I understand the role of urban data is extremely important. When we are talking about sustainability, we need to know what is the scale, what is the situation. And we had lots of discussion with different cities around the world, and there is a serious gap. In other part of technology, we already involve all the structures about data, but regarding the city management, still we have serious gaps. I'm not sure what is the main reason for city leaders. Maybe they don't that much believe, but always I'm asking how we are able to recognize what is the priorities of the cities for our action from the perspective of the politician. But we don't know exactly about the size, about the scale, about the kind of the state of the cities, based on a clear urban data. We continue with Habitat 3, and then we participate to creating kind of finance for city leaders guideline with UN Habitat in collaboration with Oxford University and University College of London. We organize an international conference in Switzerland about municipal finance and urban economy. And as an output of the conference, we established Urban Economy Forum in Canada. A first steering committee hosted by UCL Geneva, and first Urban Economy Forum hosted by York University in Toronto. And during the last months, we organized the third Urban Economy Forum. We have a history for collaboration between UN Habitat and Canada that we try to advocate that history. We believe Habitat kind of born in Canada on Habitat 1, and as a highlight of the collaboration was WUF 3, World Urban Forum 3 in Vancouver again. And when we talk about World Urban Pavilion, we always encourage Government of Canada to participate and continue this kind of role to advocate sustainable development and kind of leadership or championship about this globally. Based on that, we finalized during one year, we finalized World Urban Pavilion as a kind of collaboration between Government of Canada and UN Habitat and Urban Economy Forum for collaboration between Canada, United Nations, and other governments. We established a global platform to inspire action and advocate for urban SDG with urban stakeholders, using urban data to support evidence-based policy decisions and action priorities, supported by people-oriented innovative solution toward realizing the SDG. We received great support from both UN Habitat and Government of Canada, and a World Urban Pavilion funded by Ministry of Families, Children and Social Development, and CMHC, Canada Mortgage Corporation. We plan, the main idea for Pavilion is a kind of global hub for urban data, but at the core of the Pavilion, we have SDG cities that we believe we need SDG cities as a kind of common tools between the countries. And we are thinking and talking about different scale of the SDG cities. In Canadian cities, we start collaboration with some small cities, medium-sized cities, and big cities in Canada to rethink about what is the priorities, how we are able to use SDG cities for kind of providing structure for urban assessment. And we got great achievements, and we finalized a collaboration regarding some pilot project for the SDG cities in city of Brampton, city of Kitchener in Canada, and we are in the negotiation for kind of hosting global hub by the Pavilion. Pavilion, through the high-level international board, try to involve at least 20 countries. And in parallel, we are working with some other countries, for example, with Qatar about hosting Urban Future Program of the Pavilion Doha 2050 in collaboration of Harvard University and ISOCARP. We launched in the ISOCARP conference during 2 days ago. And there are many different and exciting initiatives in this regard. I believe I want to emphasize about role of the Pavilion regarding bridging gap, bringing all the stakeholders together and pay attention to different scale of the different scale of the collaboration with small cities, city leaders, local authorities, and government. I believe there is extremely capacity in SDG cities regarding financing, providing some interaction between cities and financial institutions. At the end of the day, when we want to realize the sustainable development goals, we need to focus, my time is over, I think, to focus about resources, extremely important. And we need to learn how we can create kind of global urban assessment, providing, this is the main lesson that I learned from World Cities Report. We need kind of, if we are together, we need to take decision together and to creating kind of global cohesion regarding realizing sustainable development goals. We need to have a clear structure about urban assessment. Based on that, SDG cities is the core of this actions. And I'm telling you, it's not only SDG 11, there is extremely important interaction with the other SDG and cities as a main place for all the different goals to realize, and SDG 11 is extremely important. We hope to collaborate. We hope to have these global initiatives here in Toronto. In parallel, Urban Economy Forum try to create a global conversation about urban resources, and we try to advocate SDG Cities initiative, and we're proud to this kind of collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Raza. I'm sure we'll hear more from David about the launch of expressions of interest to establish SDG cities, global hubs, and so create a network that can expand the scale of SDG cities implementation. And now I'm pleased to introduce Josh Yates, Executive Director of Thriving Cities Group. Josh, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you also, David, and thanks to all the conference organizers and sponsors. I am truly delighted to join this session and conference with such an extraordinary group of fellow presenters and panelists. I'm Josh Yates, the Executive Director of the Thriving Cities Group. We're an NGO that fosters collaborative problem solving and community building for people and planet through applied research, capacity building, and community enablement technologies. I'm very pleased that Thriving Cities Group has recently entered a partnership with UN Habitat to host the SDG Cities Task Force. The task force is a cross-sector, multidisciplinary, and multinational collective who bring decades of experience and expertise in the areas of community development, movement building, legacy creation, strategic design and delivery, and social investing. Together, we represent many of the strategic concerns of the SDG Cities movement, many of which have been discussed over the past 3 days, from data and technology to finance and infrastructure to cultural and contextual understanding and design. Chaired by Chris Elisera, we are constituted by some extraordinary people who are passionate about meeting the challenges and the opportunities facing all the places we call home, and who are committed to doing what we can to make progress on the SDGs. The purpose of the task force is to help serve and support the ability of the SDG Cities leadership and all contributing partners in the effort to harness and harmonize the power of this growing movement in order to be able to reach the goal of advancing the SDGs in 1,000 cities by 2030. Now, if you're like me and you've been listening to all the wonderful sessions over the past 3 days, you're coming away from this conference greatly encouraged that we can, in fact, make real progress towards this huge goal. If you're like me, then you're also encouraged by seeing the tremendous efforts already underway across a vast and growing ecosystem of cities, organizations, and sectors. There are already so many who are trying to do their part to make real and lasting progress on the SDGs in their context and within their spheres of influence. And yet, we all know and we feel the urgency and the scale of the work before us. So equipping 1,000 cities with all that they will need in the time we have will require 2 things, and both at the same time. The first is accelerating action everywhere and at every level. Time is of the essence. We must enhance the efforts of those already engaged in this work, even as we add others to the cause. The pace of urbanization, the impacts of compounding crises like COVID, inequality, and climate change will only intensify in the years ahead, making the scales of the challenge larger and more complex than they are today. The second thing is fostering and leveraging connections between all the different dimensions of this work. At the same time that we are accelerating the ability of individual cities in different parts of the world to take action, we need to develop ways for each part to leverage the power of the whole ecosystem for shared learning, aligned purpose, and common action. It is especially important in this way to connect what we like to call the mechanics, the hard infrastructure, the data and the financing dimensions, if you will, with the humanics, the centering on people, inclusivity, and local solutions. The only way we'll be able to meet the scale of the challenge before us is by building the scale of our own collective action as a whole and integrated movement. And again, the good news of the past few days, I think, is that we've already made a great start. So many of the players and sectors we need are already on the playing field. Cities, city networks, development banks, civil society groups, academics and thought leaders, and many others are already lining up to take action in their spheres of influence. By building interconnections and relationships, by sharing what we're learning and what we're doing with one another, by coordinating around our common objectives and concerns, we can reach the scale of action that is required to leverage the transformative potential of cities to advance achievement of the SDGs. Without building such interconnections between all disparate parts, we risk failing to realize all we can and all we must achieve in the time before us. So how can we accomplish this task together? In the weeks and months ahead, we will look forward to working alongside the SDG Cities leadership and all contributing partners to explore and determine specific ways to build upon this momentum of this conference and ensure that we can move forward from here as a cohesive movement for real and lasting impact. The primary outcome we seek is a global community of practice that empowers collaboration for all the SDG city partners. So we're fully aligned with the foundational principles and goals at the heart of SDG cities. So we are equipped to make our best contribution in our distinctive spheres of influence. So we can find shared strength and common vision as a movement. And ultimately, so that together we can reach the scale we need. And as Roland Schatz has said in the last session, we don't need another network. We just need more and better ways of working together. Friends helping friends. I love that. So to that end, we are excited to be able to share a little bit about Thriving Cities Group and its SDG Cities Task Force and how we can contribute. We're eagerly looking forward to working with and learning from all of you, our colleagues in this endeavor, in the months and years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. That was really nice. We do need to build a movement for change, and it has been exciting to see the green shoots of this during today's conference. Well, now I'm pleased to introduce Roland. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Ronald, the CEO of the Global Sustainability Index Institute and the media tenor. Ronald, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanya. I'd like to. No worries. It's Schatz, and it's always not so easy because it has the meaning of darling in English, as well as in treasure. So never mind. Just keep it with Roland. That's what we need.
Thank you.
I'd like to share my screen because we had the pleasure of working with Daifid and his team during the last years almost on touching exactly this element of what can we do to speed up the process and making sure that we identify the friends which are out there and find ways that we can help the cities on all levels. Cities are not just the city administration. Cities are the human beings in town, the children, the senior citizens, the soccer clubs, the choirs, the sport clubs. That's basically what we talk about. And when we started in 2018 at the SDG lab in Davos with UN Director General Michael Möller, together with the mayor of Heidelberg, how can we create a tool which is more than just a tool in order to help those in town to speed up the processes. This is what we try to do. And I would like to share with you some of these slides in the coming moments because it might help to understand the process. What I realize now, 3 years down the road, it seems still to be difficult for the mayor and the city council and everybody within the city in charge of progress to define where they would like to start with and what they can achieve aside of the current budgets. As we know, the cities are, most of them are over-indebted, so they can't take additional money on. And this is one of the biggest obstacles for them to make progress. And the reason why we started with the SDG Cities program was that there are solutions in today's world helping cities make progress, but we need to know exactly what they try to achieve. And it doesn't help if then one starts with all 17 SDGs. Our recommendation is always pick 3 to start with. And out of the 3, focus on 2 where you have the impression you went already half the mile. You make good progress. You have some experience. And then pick 1 where you have the impression you will never reach it. And test this network of friends helping friends in order to find out whether we can bring know-how, whether we are able to provide feedback in a constructive way, in a useful way, and then making sure that you get access to funding. And while you then walk your talk on these first 3 projects, we are good enough to then follow up on the remaining 14 SDGs. So basically what it is, pick and choose out of your current projects what you have in place and use the experts which we had built at UNGSI, but as well as UN Habitat, at the other great players within the UN and outside of the UN, in order to make sure that you are not inventing the wheel a second time, that you find solutions which are not only great solutions from a technology point of view, but which are great solutions as well for your people in the different districts who need to work with these solutions. Once we have this feedback, we are then able, together with the teams we have from the finance sector, from the Climate Investment Fund, from Faith Invest, from different other groups who are specialized not only in defining principles, how their money can get invested, but because from their hearts they know they have to be invested in these SDGs. So step 2 is then working together with them, making sure that the projects filed, which are then in a bankable format, that they are ticking hopefully not only on one of the SDGs, but on 2, 3, 4 at the same time. Having done this, you are then able to see that you as a city, within the city administration, within the city budget, you are able to move forward not only in regards to your projects, but as well in regards to reporting progress, because that's what we need. We need that the cities are able to report up to the national level, because once a year in July, we all meet in New York for the high-level political forum where we are presenting progress on SDG implementation. That's the one element of the one-stop solution, which is hopefully providing real value for those in the city administration on one hand, and for those who want to be invested and who are urgently looking for good projects being invested within the SDGs. But still, the vast majority of the city is missing. And that is what I would like to touch on now. We have Zanya from Dubai. Do you remember how it was in Dubai 50 years ago? There was no city. There was sand. Plus,
Right.
was
I wasn't
able,
born back then, so I can't comment on that, but I know there was nothing but sand, a desert in Dubai 50 years ago.
exactly. Plus,
Right.
there were a group of smart people who found oil, right?
Right.
And because they found oil, that doesn't mean that the oil was already out of the ground. We had the friends from Japan flying to UAE, giving the sheikh a check by saying, we would like to buy 40% of your oil, no matter when it will be the first time that you get the oil out of the ground. And you can define the price. We will never negotiate on the price. The check is empty. You fill out the amount you want, you think is the real value for the 40%, and we pay. And so they did. They did since 50 years. They did the same in Kuwait, and they did it in other cities, in other regions of the Gulf. Now, guess what? 50 years down the road, UAE is celebrating their 50th anniversary. And the leaders of UAE are eager to now give back to the world. What can we give better back than helping citizens in our towns to do the reforestation program? To plant trees, as we know we need to plant 1 trillion trees. Dubai is great because we have trees now, not everywhere, but in quite a lot of spaces in Dubai. We need the trees in Africa, we need the trees all over the world. And what we developed together with schools, with sport clubs and others, a program where we said everybody who is enjoying their Christmas tree, and often it's not only a Christmas tree at December, we say, how about you prove that you planted 50 trees at Nikolaus 4 weeks ahead of time? And guess what? With the Stuttgart Stock Exchange, if we chip these trees, you can get carbon credits. You can get carbon credits for each of these 50, and you can get it year by year by year. And out of this great partnership between Japan and UAE, we learned at UNGSI that there's this very special tree called the Kiri Tree, which you can grow, and as it grows very fast, you can have agriculture underneath. And guess what? After 16 years, you can cut the tree, you can sell it to make great furniture, and it will grow again. It will grow 9 times. So just with one project where we empower the school kids in the schools, no matter whether they are in Africa, whether they are in Latin America, whether they are in Europe, we can plant trees everywhere. But if we do it collectively, united via these chips, we can send a very strong message. It's not just about the tree planting, it's maintaining the trees in order to do something for the climate. which brings me to the next example. I'm traveling to DRC next week because the UN African Economic Council is hosting their Kinshasa conference there. Hardly anybody knows that in a country like Kinshasa, you have a platform which is called the Young Academic Platform. There are 44,000 students being members of this platform. And we try to help them, on one hand, getting access to digital learning, to internships, to other things which let these young people grow. But at the same time, when I was in Congo 6 months ago and I visited a rural village, I promised to the kids in this rural village that my daughter and her friends and friends will help, that this rural village will not only get toys and learning equipment and important ingredients to grow the agriculture in the city, but as well power and water. This needs people on the ground. And guess what? Here you have your Young Academic Platform. 44,000 students are not just in Kinshasa or Kolwezi. They are all over the country, like we have in almost all the countries. If we start thinking about these groups, we have legs and arms, and most important, hearts all over the world, which are able to accelerate, to make sure that we help each other, even in those areas where we can't talk about a city, it's still a village, but people in villages need this kind of support. And that is why I believe we can do this, because I learned my lesson from Kofi Annan. We set up the Kofi Annan Ambassador of Hope school competitions in Africa, in Vietnam. We did book giving tours all over the place, because I believe if we connect the youngs with the olds and the olds with the youngs, we can make a difference, because they will be the ones who are knocking on the doors at the city administration and said, hey guys, you promised to exchange the diesel buses with zero emission buses. And guess what? I'm still sitting in my school bus and it's still run on diesel. When are you going to do it?
学生呢会找到市领导说，你们答应了要采用无柴油的校车，但是现在我们做的柴油校车呢还是使用的柴油。我们需要用这种结构性的方式来开展工作，来收集相关的数据。要想加速进步，我们需要有好的设施，我们也需要有学术的资源。
Well, let me end with what is close to my mind. We need to
最后
have
讲一个我自己感受最深的，
play
就
music.
是要让年轻人参与我们的工作，我们要让他们进行音乐方面的学习，不仅是提升他们的文艺的素养，而且让他们能够感受到贝多芬编写第9交响曲时候的心境。
To make at least one friend in his life, he or she should leave the room crying. And I'm sure we can do better. We are able to make friends in a good, in a solid, and a way that nobody's left behind. Thank you, Sanya.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Roland, for this clear vision in moving forward. And now let me introduce Liane Ferrar. She is the CEO of Blending Lab, who will speak about fundraising strategy to support the participation of cities in developing countries. And Liane, floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanya. And I would like to thank you and Abdat on the leadership of Maimuna and all team and partners. Thank you, Daifed, for bringing us here, for all the amazing work done, and to give us a chance to understand, motivate our participation as a real players of the SDGs achievements through cities. So alongside my professional background on 35 years on urban sustainable development, I am a 60 years old Brazilian woman with 2 granddaughters, and would like to talk with each one is here, is seeing this closing session. I will talk from my legitimate place and use my voice, talk about what is missing now? So listening in this session just reinforced my voice. This conference provided all demonstrators that all ecosystems are needed to make SDG cities a reality are there. All sectors, all leaders, all players, all tools, all platforms, different partnerships, alliances, portfolio of aggregated solutions, providing better origination for investments. All financing architectures, vehicles, blended finance is already there, already or being developed to channel resources to the right solutions, projects promoting the right impacts. So we learned here and agreed that cities are the most powerful vector of transformation that can accelerate and achieve SDGs. We need to bring it together. We need to scale up, reach everywhere, each city of the world. We need all ecosystems in dynamic to accelerate and achieve SDGs. And now we have to face the biggest challenge, that is inequality, that Roland brought and many speakers here. If we really want, as in investors, as strategic players, to build back better, we have to face the no one behind. So we need investments, we need all ecosystems in a dynamic to accelerate and achieve SDGs to and through cities, with a good investment impact standards to help the decisions to address investments to SDGs impacts. So having public and private resources, especially sovereigns, DFIs, philanthropists, catalyzing the trillions that has to be addressed to face the challenges of our own time financing and investment system, making SDGs a reality. So we have to look the south of the planet and see how could we unlock and address investments to the developing countries, smaller cities, in a patient investment perspective. We have to act on the biggest catalytic effort ever done in the world. So to leverage urban sustainable development in smaller cities, every city in the world. We already know how critical role of catalytic resources have to unlock and leverage capital, promoting systemic risking and previsibility, the amount of trillions that are needed. And this piece is missing. A big lesson we took from COVID is to be faster, together, and perform. Let's use the same competence to transform. I remember I was in London having a conversation with Roland just before COVID, and we were talking about how the world was needing a chord, musician accord. So at that moment, we couldn't imagine that COVID was arriving to be exactly this big accord. So we learned a lot from that. Let's use it. So let's use this movement to be together. And I would like to invite all here, all that can listen, that to join Untitled. I would like to call philanthropic resources to join in the first place, being followed by DFIs, concessional funds, to play this most catalytic role around the world, promoting a real unlocking of the trillions of dollars we need, and become SDG to a reality of the majority of the people on the world. Let's do it on time towards 2030. So this is my message here, my last message. So count on me. And I would like as well to call all women leaders, all women investors to join us in this effort in behalf of all women in the world.
Well, thank you, Liani. Indeed, there's a lot of work needed to make sure that the cities in developing countries can benefit from the SDG Cities Initiative. And this is definitely a priority. And now over to David Aubrey from UN Habitat to announce new partnerships and the next step moving forward.
Thanks so much, Sanya. And thank you to my friends in the panel who have spoken before me. And indeed, what I love about the SDGs is that the SDGs unite us. And there are several different ways of achieving the SDGs, you know, and I've really liked hearing from Reza about the vision of the World Economic Forum, as well as the work of the World Urban Pavilion, and the concept of pavilions to innovate locally, to drive a national program, and to use that local innovation to spread it globally. And I think this is a very beautiful model, and we will be launching a call for other global SDG cities hubs that will have that local, national, and global roles. I really like what Roland was bringing to the table in terms of friends helping friends, but also the idea of focus on a handful of SDGs and do really well with them. And in that learning process, share what you've learned with others, whether it's a financing mechanism, whether it's innovation, whether it's a way of bringing costs down, etc. And, you know, looking at specific SDGs, finding great mechanisms around it and exporting the idea so it can be replicated at scale. I very much appreciate what Josh was saying about movement building. You know, what I've also loved about this conference is that we've seen such an amazing array of actors who are really united about around this goal of achieving SDGs in cities and going to scale. And what's needed then is how can this be kind of orchestrated to create a movement for change, building on what's already there, not creating something new, but bringing this sort of movement for change. So that's really very much appreciated. And then finally, Liane, with the idea that, you know, as we're starting to promote the SDG cities, what we find is that a lot of countries in middle income, a lot of cities in middle income countries, they can sort of pay their way. They'll find their way to engage and benefit from the expertise. Of course, we're trying to bring costs down through digitization, etc. But there are costs. And the key thing is, how do we get a huge cohort of cities in developing countries to be part of this? That just, you know, they're struggling to meet the demands of their citizens, let alone get expertise in and help the city move forward. You know, what about these cities that are working hand to mouth? And I think that is a huge challenge for us. You know, how do we unlock the finance needed to engage their participation? Because what we don't want is to increase the divide between middle income and poorer countries and middle income cities and poorer cities. So there's a huge effort needed there. But I think we've gone a long way. I'm going to just put up a quick slide now. If I can. Oh yeah, the green button at the bottom. Okay, here we go. We've talked about the approach and recognizing lots of different types of approaches. We've talked about this kind of value chain throughout this conference. We've talked about the baseline assessment. We've talked about a strategic planning process, which was introduced by IHS this morning. We've talked about institutional capacity, both in the session yesterday on SDGs, but also in the demonstration of digital tools to build capacity. We've talked about investment in the session yesterday, which brought together an ecosystem of actors. What we haven't really talked much about yet is the idea of certification. And you know, it's a big effort to, whether you're a rich city or a poor city or something in between, it's still a huge effort to deliver on the SDGs. it requires changes. It requires changes of emphasis. It requires investing in those communities that haven't been invested in before. And so it's a political commitment as much as a financial commitment and a technical commitment. And so we want to recognize this. So we have 4 stages of certification. One, which is the Silver Award, which is basically recognizes the commitment of SDGs, of cities towards achieving the SDGs. And it's around having, and it's measured by the fact that they have a baseline and they are creating a vision around it. The goal then is about that they have a clear plan ahead. They know what they don't want to do between now and 2030. This plan has been developed in partnership with the city residents and stakeholders. Then we have the Platinum Award, or the Platinum Certificate, where we recognize that the cities are really investing and building their institutions to become better and more fit for purpose to deliver on the SDGs. And the final one, the big one, the diamond, is about having measurable impact on the SDGs. And we hope that, it's that the certification process might also kind of motivate cities to want to do that next step, get to that next step as well, and be globally recognized, because they should be globally recognized. And that's something I've also loved about this conference, is just hearing from a very diverse set of cities about what they've been doing, what the tangible impacts they have, what have been their priorities, etc. What I'd like to do now, I'll just break in this presentation, and I just want to sort of take stock of where we are now, the cities that have onboarded during the last few days. And I'm asking Shusai to play a short video, which is just recapping some of the new partnerships that have opened up just in the last few days. Over to Shusai, and then I'll come back on after.
Un saludo a todas las personas que nos acompañan. Mi nombre es Ana Oregui, soy la teniente de alcalde de la ciudad de Vitoria-Gasteiz, en el País Vasco. Lo primero, quiero agradecer a ONU Habitat que nos ha brindado esta posibilidad de participar en el Foro Global de las Ciudades, ODS. En segundo lugar, me gustaría decir que Vitoria-Gasteiz está muy interesada en participar como ciudad en la iniciativa Ciudades ODS y que estamos sentando las bases para que esto ocurra en un breve periodo de tiempo.
Greetings. The Penang 2030 Vision Statement, which is in line with the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG), defines the Penang State Government's aim of becoming a family-focused, green and smart state that inspires the nation. Penang Bay, as one of the many SDG-aligned initiatives that forms part of the Penang 2030 Vision, is focused on the rehabilitation of the water-based assets of Georgetown and Butterworth. It represents an opportunity for Penang's development, not just in economic or infrastructural terms, but also for the longevity, well-being and happiness of the people. Penang Bay offers us with the opportunity to invest in the built environment in order to improve resilience and create a future-proof city. It also presents prospects in building on a green lifestyle, utilizing nature to adapt to the effects of climate change, and making new strides towards sustainable living. As such, I congratulate the SDG Cities Global Conference organizers for arranging this important event, and I am pleased to announce that Penang Bay will be an early adopter of the SDG Cities program. I look forward to continued engagement with UN Habitat and hope to be able to share our progress with and inspire other cities in the near future. Thank you.
When it comes to Kuwait's SDGs priorities and SDGs cities global initiatives, the oil sector, in addition to all other sectors in Kuwait, are very delighted in covering all areas, and we are focusing on the environmental and health where the oil sector is becoming an integral part of the country's action toward fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is why we specifically sought the United Nations Habitat Program as a strategic partner due to their expertise that we surely believe will lead to better results. In this regard, the Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, on behalf of the oil sector, has signed a memorandum of agreement with the United Nations Settlement Program, UN Habitat, on the 27th of October, a few days back, where the focus is on making Kuwait City and the human settlement sustainable, safe, and inclusive as part of SDGs 11. This includes the development of studies and future projects related to the prevention of this desertification, strengthening the environmental situation of open areas in the state of Kuwait, and ensuring environmental sustainability.
Hello, I'm Leroy Yala, President and CEO of Sister Cities International. It is my distinct honor to be part of today's program. SCI's global network of citizen diplomats hail from 465 U.S. communities with partnerships in 1,800 cities located in 138 countries. The SDG Cities Global Initiative is particularly important for our organization because we believe that change starts with local communities. Earlier this year, we hosted our Global Youth Leadership Summit, where young leaders from around the world were encouraged to explore solutions to local community issues with the guidance of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. By creating awareness about the 2030 Agenda among our youth, Sister Cities International is able to initiate grassroots change and bolster projects that spur sustainable growth for our member cities. Acknowledging the value of creating and strengthening partnerships, Sister Cities International is excited to cooperate with UN Habitat and all the organizations here today to achieve this common goal. We believe that creating sustainable futures for the next generation is possible by encouraging collaboration among our communities and promoting peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation, one individual and one community at a time. Thank you.
What we really need to have now as things start to open up is a strong push around action. And I think that chimes with the need to accelerate action towards achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And in my kind of experience, and our members are very ready to do that. They're very keen to do that. They're very anxious to do that. And I think, you know, recognizing that actually the SDGs in many respects are what local government does. So in a sense, we already have a slight head start. It's just really about how we integrate that into the plans and into particularly the implementation of cities. And I'm really happy that we kind of like sit between the talk around you know, what cities want to do and the financing agenda, because as everyone has said, it is about how we then link cities up with finance, and that is a crucial part of the jigsaw, and that's something that I think all of us city networks are really keen to do going forward, and keen to work in partnership with organisations like UN Habitat, like SDG Cities, to be able to bring our cities to the table. Thanks.
Source has been created for two reasons. First is to have a pipeline of well-prepared projects, and that I will focus on that in a while. And the second is to support government on their digitalization agenda. We are going to develop further the platform towards cities, because we need to develop more and more functionalities that will be beneficial to the cities based on the feedback from the users. And we are signed a partnership with UN Habitat with SDG Cities in order to further develop that work, and we look forward to continue the work with the City Investment Facility. Thank you.
We've heard from the MDB perspective, we've heard from the financier's perspective. If you turn around, look at it from the city financial officer's perspective, how do they see it? And then it's how making those two things match together. And so we're very proud and privileged to be working very closely with Cities Investment Facility as a partner to that, to be able to kind of make this match, because at the end of the day, it's the form of the financing that dictates the form of the city. What a city looks like is partly a function of how it's been financed. And that's where we hope we can kind of bring city-friendly financing, so you don't get these islands of a shopping mall there, a hotel there, and then everything not very nice in between. So I'll conclude there, and we hope that this partnership with UN Habitat as part of the CIF can really bring this experience to the pipeline that is coming through for the CIF.
So just to continue, I think what's evident is that events like this bring partners together, but it's not just events like this. There's huge amounts of dialogue and discussions as we move forward. Just to get my my presentation just back up, and I'm aware we've gone a little bit over time, so I'm going to be pretty quick. So way forward, what are we going to do? So we've heard already about onboarding new pilot cities. And in addition to those just presented, we also will have La Paz joining us, and they're very keen to also export this across other Bolivian cities. As Roland mentioned earlier, Kinshasa and probably Kolwezi and others in DRC. We will have an announcement shortly from Shanghai. It was interesting just now to hear from Reza about the interest of Brampton and Kitchener in Canada and other cities that will join through the World Urban Pavilion. So onboarding the pilot cities is key, but not just onboarding the pilot cities. We need to also finish our digital tools that we've been building. We have that partnership with Global CEO Alliance. We will, in the next few months, complete and pilot our SDG cities digital tools, the urban monitoring, institutional strengthening, the city investment facility, etc., so that we have something really great to offer. And then let's build on, from that, we sort of build on existing momentum, and we'll be merging what we're doing. We're already merging what we're doing with the 25+5 SDG Cities Leadership Platform. You might see that we've got the same logo. And this is about friends helping friends. You know, when we first had the idea of SDG Cities, we weren't sure whether to call it SDG Cities or Urban 2030, and generally internally we felt to do SDG Cities. And I Googled it and I found SDG Cities Leadership Platform. And I was a bit nervous about kind of stealing their name. And we launched it in World Urban Forum, and who should be standing just opposite when we were launching was Susanna from SDG Cities Global Leadership Platform. And I was embarrassed because we've kind of stolen the name, but no, we just found huge synergy. These are two organizations that are on the same path. And as we've been building that relationship over the last year and a half, we've just see so many synergies. And this is the approach. Malaysia, we heard from Urban East yesterday about the Malaysia SDG Cities program. That's fantastic. Let's just work together, friends helping friends together to move that forward. So low-hanging fruits, then merging with SDG Cities Leadership Platform, bringing that movement together, but also engaging with what's become more than 100 cities doing voluntary local review. These cities already have the political will. Well, let's support them to get to the next mile of action and impact. And then we will also be promoting the SDG Cities Global Hubs. We'll be making a call for this and seeing what cities might like also to host something similar to what's been done in Canada. And also through UN Habitat's national programs, we'll be encouraging action there. We're working closely with our Brazil office, our Tunisia office, our Morocco office to develop national programs of SDG cities. And building partnerships with city networks. We just heard from CGLF and Sister Cities, and also our discussions with UCLG, the United Cities Local Government. They're also keen to collaborate as well as Cities Alliance. So this will be a very important thing. As Roland says, we don't need new networks. We need to sort of work with those excellent networks that exist. And then finally, we want to be launching the Feasibility Fund, which was mentioned yesterday by my colleague Shamarki, and also coming up with a strategy. And this is the most important thing for engaging cities in developing countries so that no one and no place is left behind. These are the main things that we want to achieve between now, World Cities Day, and World Urban Forum in the middle of next year. Stay with us. We've got a lot to do. And thank you very much for being with us over the last few days. We're going to be together for the next 9 years, and I very much look forward to that. So thank you very much, and floor back to Sanya to close. Thank you.
Thank you, David. There are exciting months and years ahead of us as we achieve this collaborative action to achieve the SDGs in the cities. Oh, my video is off. Sorry, my video was off. Thank you so much, David. And there are some exciting months and years ahead of us, and I'm also looking forward to our collaboration. And now to close, I wish to thank all of you for joining us over the last few days, and I wish you renewed vigor on this World Cities Day to drive the achievement of sustainable development in the cities. UN Habitat wishes in particular to thank the City of Shanghai and the Global Sustainability Index Institute for this partnership in delivering the conference. And I'm now pleased to give the floor to Madame Memuna Muhammad Sharif, who's the Executive Director of UN Habitat, to provide their closing statements. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and the closing statements.
Thank you.
Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. Wang Xia Ang Hao. Over the past 2 days, I trust that you had a fruitful discussions and strengthened collaboration as we work for our cities and help them advance the SDGs and implement the new urban agenda to enhance the quality of life for all. We have seen how cities, city networks, national authorities, civil society, specialist funds, development banks, and private sector can work together to support the localization of SDGs in cities and have highlighted the importance of small and intermediary cities. We have identified challenges that need to be resolved. In particular, the need for mechanisms to finance transformation in cities of all sizes and locations, and have outlined priority areas for deeper debate. Today, as we are discussing the way forward, I'm delighted to know that the City of Shanghai will partner with the SDG Cities Initiative. We greatly appreciate the partnerships that have brought us this far. Moving forward, I'm determined to work with philanthropies, foundations, and diverse sources of finance to create a feasibility fund to support cities in developing countries to prepare investment-ready, impactful projects, and to create an SDG Cities Fund to support their engagement with the SDG Cities Initiative. I would also like to take this opportunity to call for the member states and cities to host SDG Cities Hubs that promote and support the implementation of the SDG Cities Initiative at national, regional, or global levels. Information will be made available on our website shortly. Finally, I'm pleased to announce that starting with the pilot cities, we will be awarding UN Habitat SDG City certification process that recognizes exceptional effort of cities to advance the achievement of SDGs. Certificates will be awarded when cities generate good data, when they develop ambitious, inclusive strategic plans for 2030, when local capacities to deliver on the SDGs are strengthened, and when transformative impact is achieved. This is a long way to go, and our time is limited. And yet, over and over, we have seen that when we are unified by a common agenda, great things can be achieved. Thank you for joining us over this weekend, and thank you for your participation, your insights and energy, and I reiterate my appreciation to Shanghai Municipal Government for its partnerships and generous support in co-hosting this conference, and wish you a happy World Cities Day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you very much, Sanya, for moderating that session. And thank you to my fellow panelists. It's been great. And thank you for all those who stayed with us for the last few days. Wishing you a very happy World Cities Day and a great rest of the weekend. Okay, bye.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
See you.